Hi everyone, my name is Emily Trinetti and I'm here to tell you about humane education and why it's important. I'm also going to share with you some strategies for how you can integrate humane education into your work. So whether you work or volunteer at an animal shelter or rescue, or maybe you're just someone who loves and advocates for animals, this video is for you. So as I mentioned, my name is Emily and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a certified animal trainer and applied animal behavior consultant with a Master of Science in Anthrozoology. I provide humane education and consulting through my business, Coexistence Consulting, and I'm a co-founder of the Humane Alliance of Rescue Trainers, which is a nonprofit that matches shelters and rescues with behavior support at no cost. I'm pursuing my Doctor of Education in Educational and Professional Practice with a specialization in humane education through Antioch University in partnership with the Institute for Humane Education. So, if you couldn't tell from my background, or by my background, I'm really passionate about humane education. But, if you're here watching this video, you might be wondering, well, what is humane education and why does it matter? So the field of humane education has significantly evolved since it started taking shape in the late 1800s. It began largely as a movement to encourage children to be kind to non-human animals. And it had a focus of preventing cruelty, preventing the cruel treatment of companion animals. And so, of course, this is incredibly important. But over time, it became apparent that many forms of animal abuse are only parts or pieces of a vast interconnected web of oppression that impacts all animals, including humans and the environment. And so key players in the field of humane education have been working to redefine its mission into a more inclusive, comprehensive endeavor. The Institute for Humane Education is one of these important influencers, and they now define humane education as something that helps people put core values of kindness, empathy, generosity, responsibility, and integrity into practice in a complex, globalized world in which our daily choices affect humans, non-human animals, and ecosystems across the planet. And so this comprehensive approach is reflected in how I define humane education. I define it as an educational practice that's centered on inspiring critical thinking, empathy, and compassionate action, and how humans interact with all beings and the environments that we share. So for those of us who work in the field of animal care or animal welfare, we're often already integrating some aspects of humane education into our work, even though we might not necessarily call it that. But as we teach guardians about, their companion animals' behavior and welfare, we're prompting them to critically think and to deepen their empathy for their companion animals. And we're hoping that this will then inspire them to take action, to change their own behavior towards their companions. But I believe we can be even more intentional in the way that we, educate our community members, that we can really step into this role of a humane educator. And that through these, small changes to how we talk about other animals, we can do even more than just help the individual animals in front of us. So children and youth have been the primary audience of humane education. In fact, your shelter or rescue might already have a humane education program. However, as one researcher puts it, teaching children kindness to all living beings requires a change in perspective of adults. Unfortunately, many adults have few opportunities to learn how to critically reflect on social justice, animal welfare, and environmental issues. But luckily, as people who are already advocating for other animals in various roles, we're usually already teaching adults. And so we have this really cool opportunity to expose the people that we're talking to about animals to comprehensive humane education. And so it's important to acknowledge that, education, it doesn't have to take place in a classroom or in a more formal setting. Humans and all animals are always learning. So whether we're, working in contexts like animal shelters or sanctuaries or vet clinics, or maybe we're just speaking with our loved ones, the people who are around us are always learning from what we say and what we do. And they're also, watching how we're interacting with other animals too. And so humane education takes place in how we interact with each other and how we learn from each other. And so there are many ways that we can integrate humane education into our work. In the remainder of our time together, let's take a look at just a few possible strategies. So these first strategies are all about critical thinking, which is a critical component of humane education. As we interact with our community members and colleagues, there are subtle yet powerful ways we can inspire critical thinking. An essential first step is building trust. This includes empathizing with whom you're teaching and making it clear that the conversation is a judgment-free space where they won't be judged, blamed, or shamed for their assumptions or beliefs. And then you can get curious together. You can, we can gently prompt others to think about their thinking, to question their assumptions. And we can ask people to tell us more about what their beliefs are and why they're important to them. And so in partnership with others, we can consider how our behavior is impacted by our beliefs and how they might change if they're perceived another, or if they, and how these beliefs might change if they perceive another being differently. And finally, we need to model what this process is like for others around us. We can walk the talk by critically thinking out loud in the presence of others. This vulnerability can also deepen people's trust in us and help them feel safe enough to share and ask questions as they engage in their own critical thinking process. And so my hope is that teaching these critical thinking skills in the context of our companion animals will not only improve the relationships between community members and their animals, but also provide them with invaluable skills that they can apply to the interactions they have with other beings and the natural world. We should also strive to foster empathy in others, which is defined as an emotional state induced by recognizing, understanding, and caring about another sentient being's perspectives and experiences. This means resisting our assumptions about what another being is feeling, and instead taking the time to understand what their perspectives and experiences might actually be like. And we should also strive to inspire compassion in our communities. But important prerequisites for doing so are first treating ourselves with compassion, and then to also practice compassion in our daily lives, like by working to improve the well-being of those around us and ensuring the spaces that we create and manage are safe for all humans and non-humans. This might also include adopting more sustainable, environmentally friendly practices and policies and becoming a more mindful consumer. By striving to embody compassion in our daily lives, we can inspire others to live more compassionately too. This is humane education. So, in summary, humane education encourages critical thinking and fosters empathy for other sentient beings, which can then inspire our fellow humans to take compassionate action. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and thank you to WAG Workshops for having me. If you have any questions for me or want to learn more about my work, my website is coexistence.consulting. Thanks, everyone.